So I'm going to get started in Design Space. I will include a link below for this project if you just want to make it. It will take you right to this screen. So I'll include that below. Otherwise, I'm going to show you how I made this project. So the first thing you're going to want to do is make sure you have your machine selected. I'm using the Cricut Maker, and remember the foil tool is only for the Maker or the Explorer. And then I knew I just wanted to make a simple card, so the first thing I did was add a square, and that's over here under Shapes. We'll go ahead and click on Square. And then I wanted this to be about a 4 by 4 inch square, so you can adjust the size up here where it says Size. And I'm going to type in 4 and hit Enter, and then it will automatically adjust the height for me. So that's perfect, our square is all finished. For this image, I went through and searched for images in Cricut's Design Space, and this is an image that you can purchase, or if you have Cricut Access, it will be free. So I actually pulled the second one onto the canvas here and just hit it. So this is what it looks like when it first comes onto your mat or onto the canvas. So what you're going to want to do is just size this however, large or small, and you can click and drag here. And this is obviously going to go on top of our square. So as you can tell right now, it's underneath our square. So we're going to come up to Arrange and click Send to Front. And I'm going to go ahead and make my square a different color just so it's easier to see. So now let's go back to this image, and we're going to go up to Line Type. So if you're not familiar, Line Type is basically telling your Cricut how to either cut your image, tell it to draw, tell it to perforate. It's telling your Cricut what to do with the design. And so right now it's on Draw, and we want to click on that and go down to Foil. And then depending on what tip you're using, you'll click on Fine, Medium, or Bold. For this project, I'm using the Fine, so I'm going to click on that. And then now the Cricut knows, hey, we are going to use the Foil Transfer Tool for this part of the design. So I'm just going to go ahead and size this down. You can do this however large or small you want. And you can kind of eyeball it where you'd like, but I'm going to go ahead and click and drag to highlight both the square and the design. And then I'm going to come up to Align. And then I'm going to say to center. So now it's going to center the design perfectly. And so then now I'm going to click and highlight again. And we're going to come down and click Attach. So this way the Cricut knows, hey, I have no idea what's happening here, by the way. So you can ignore that. But the Cricut knows to foil this design on top of our card and then cut the square. So if you come over into the Layers panel, you'll see our square. It says it's going to cut. And then our design, it says Foil Fine. So we've got that perfectly all set up. So I'm going to go ahead and just actually delete this one. And then we can click on Make It. And now we're on our map preview screen. So from here, it's recommended to not start your design up in the top left-hand corner, or really any of these corners. Because what we're going to do is add some tape. So I'm just going to bump mine down and start it right at this point. So it's 1 inch in and 1 inch down. And I like to just use these lines, the inch lines on the mat, as a reference point so I know where to put my design. So when we get to applying our craft board onto the paper, we're going to apply it right there onto the mat. So we're all good from here. So we're going to hit Continue. I'm going to connect to the Maker over Bluetooth. The nice thing about this screen is it's going to walk us through every single step. So if you're confused or you might think you might forget something, it happens. Just make sure you follow what's happening on the screen. So from here, we're going to click on our base material, and I have mine right here, which is craft board. So step 2 here says load tools and material. So as you can see, we're going to load the foil transfer tool first with a fine tip. It's going to show us how to tape it onto our mat and then to load it. And then as you can see here, it's telling us that up next is to cut. So we're going to do the foil first, and then we're going to cut with a fine point blade. So I have some black craft board. This is from Cricut, and we sell it on our website, so I'll link that below for you. And I'm going to get this applied onto a standard grip cutting mat. Now, Cricut recommends when you make foil projects that you don't put it like right up against the edge here, that you kind of give it some space because we are going to be taping it down. We just want to leave room for the tape. So I moved on my mat preview screen, as you saw, the design to be right here on this 1 by 1. And then I'll place my
craft board on there. If you haven't used craft board, it's just a thick paper and it's so pretty. And I think that the foil is going to shine really nice on this. So I'm excited to try that out. All right, so this was the foil packet that came inside of the kit. So what I'm going to do is pull out one gold sheet and just be really careful handling this. The paper is fine. And then we're also going to pull out our tape. So in that same packet, it comes with tape that's pre-cut for you. It's this white stuff. So we're going to use that. So now we've got our craft board on the standard grip mat, and you'll place your foil face up. So obviously you've got the gold side up, and I'm going to get that lined up on top of the black craft board. And then I'm going to use the tape that came with the foil, and we're going to tape it onto the mat. It's so important here that we get this nice and taut because the tool is going to be dragging across, obviously, so we want to make sure that the foil does not move. And I'll be really interested to see how this does today because I did pick a pretty complex design that's not like super big, so we'll see how this does. So I'm just applying the tape on the sides, making sure as I go that I'm like pulling it down. Okay, perfect. So now that's nice and taut, and we'll move on to the next step. So I'm working with the Cricut Maker today. Like I mentioned earlier, you can use the Cricut Maker or any of the Cricut Explore machines, which is super nice. So I've got the tool here, and I have the fine tip inserted, which just comes with that one little line. So just make sure you have the right one, depending on the thickness of your project. For this project, if you do this exact one, I definitely would recommend using this fine. So we are going to unclamp the B slot, and we will just put the tool in just like you would put in a blade. The last thing to do is to move the star wheels over to the right. You just have to move the ones that would potentially go over the foil. We don't want those to wreck the foil. And then we'll get this loaded in. And then the first thing that the Cricut is going to do is do the foil, and then it will pause. I'm gonna get this going, and then it will cut our paper for us. So here we go. Okay, so I have it going here. I can see that this tape is kind of sticking up. I didn't tape it well enough onto the side of the mat, so if you see that start to peel up, just push right back down. All right, so we just finished with the foil process. So what happens is you foil first, and then your Cricut will pause, and it's gonna unload your mat, but not all the way, right? Like it's still in here. And from this point, do not unload your mat. We're just going to remove the foil. So I'm just gonna carefully peel up some of this tape. And then what we're gonna do once the foil gets removed, we'll put the fine point blade in, and then it will cut. So just go nice and slow, and oh my gosh. I thought this might be too much for it, like just too much little detail, but you guys, this is awesome. I'll show it to you up close when it's finished cutting, but I'm super, super impressed. So there's what the foil, looked like. So now I'm going to put in the fine point blade into that same slot, and then we'll hit the C, and then it will cut. All right, so now that it's completely finished, we'll unload this. And then I'm just gonna carefully remove the craft board from the mat. I like to bend the mat back and pull the paper off, hold it straight. All right, so take a look at that detail. I think that is so impressive. I am super excited about this tool. I did notice that when I put the tape on from the foil, it peeled up a little bit on the craft board. So I'll have to be a little more careful next time, or just experiment with different paper. It is beautiful. I can't believe that it did that. This is so fun. Just another awesome thing that we can do with our Cricuts. So I will link everything below that I used for this project, but I'm truly like amazed. I mean, some of that detail, come on, that's so small. So I'll link everything below. If you want to snag one, we have them available on our website, www.craft-e-corner.com. We will definitely be back with more tips and tricks and projects for using your foil transfer tool, but we hope that you love it, and thanks so much for watching.